This is worksheet 2.5 on trigonometric values. You'll be doing worksheet 2. The reason there's a worksheet 2.5 is last year I found my students weren't ready to go from worksheet 2 all the way to worksheet 3 yet. Worksheet 3 I think is in radians, so just ignore it for now. And I'll post on the assignments exactly what you should do. So this is, I'll work worksheet 2.5 and then you do worksheet 2, which will be posted on assignments. And just ignore worksheet 3 for now until you can save it. We'll use it eventually. All right, for tangent of 150, number 1, I'll go to 150 degrees and always go to the closest x-axis for your reference angle. First of all, let's write our charts down or get your memo page out. So we'll be using these two things. All students take calculus, radians, degrees, sine, cosine, tangent. We'll fill in radians later. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, and the third 3 goes on the top. The first 2 columns are divided by a 2. And then go and square root all your 2's and 3's. No need to square root 1 because the square root of 1 is 1. I don't know if you can read mine very well, but you've got your own memo page to look at. Also, at some point, we might want our IOU chart, so I'll put it over here to refer to. Sine, cosine, tangent. Remember to start low. Again, you can just be looking at your memo page until you find you don't need to look at your memo page. You'll memorize it if you're really doing your homework. Start at 0 degrees, 90, 180, and 270. Sorry, it's really messy, but it'll serve our purpose, I think, for today. And it goes 0, 1, 0, I, O, U, 0, 1, 0, I, O, U, and the last 2 ones are negative. Again, you might want to look at your chart. All right, the tangent of 150. So starting number 1. So I go to 150 degrees. It's 30 degrees away from 180. And so this reference angle right here is 30 degrees. I don't know if you can really see that. The reference angle right here is 30 degrees. Okay. All right. So so I know all of the ratios are decided once and for all. So I find sine of 30 degrees in my chart right here. And so I'm sorry, it's not sine, it's tangent. Tangent of a 30-degree angle right here is square root of 3 over 3. So I'm right here. Tangent of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 3. But we're not going to be always in the first quadrant anymore, so don't ever take a chart out of a number out of this chart without stopping by here to check the sign. All right, all students take calculus. This tells you where things are positive. And so in the second quadrant, I would go all students take calculus. Sine is the only one of the 3 positive in the second quadrant. And so this is positive. So tangent is negative, square root of 3 over 3. Tangent of 180 is a quadrantal angle, so we can just look it up in here. Tangent of 180 is right here. Tangent of 180 is 0. And I can barely read that chart, so let me write it better, sorry. Radians, degrees, sine, cosine, tangent, 0, 90, 180, 270, 0, 1, 0, I, O, undefined, IOU, 0, 1, 0, I, O, U, those are U's, and the last 2 ones are negative. So I was just doing the tangent of 180 this evening. All right, the cosine of 390. Many things spin around more than once, for certainly. Like think of even, well, it's kind of old-fashioned, like a CD or a record album. They spin around really fast. A gear, a drill, lots of things spin around really fast. So this is 360. And so 390 lands over here. And I have a 30-degree reference angle again. I'm looking for the cosine of 30-degree reference angle. So the cosine of a 30-degree reference angle, I can't keep circling things in the chart, but the cosine of a 30-degree reference angle is right here, which is square root of 3 over 2. All right, double check the sign. Every time you write down a number, think about what quadrant you're in now. But we're in the first quadrant on number 3, where all students take calculus. All sine, cosine, and tangent are all positive. All right, sine of 120. 120 is a 60-degree reference angle. So we're looking at sine of a 60-degree reference angle. So sine of 60 is right here, square root of 3 over 2, and all students take calculus. Tells you where things are positive. Sine is positive in the second quadrant for number 4. Number 5. Now we're going to spin around the other direction. So now I'm going to go tan of negative 240. So I'm going like this. This is negative 240 right here. And I just passed a negative 180 by 60 degrees. So if you go negative 180, negative 240, your reference angle right in here is what you care about. Your reference angle right in here is 60 degrees. So I'm looking at tangent of 60, which is right here, square root of 3. And then we think all students take calculus. Sine is the only one that's positive in that quadrant. And so that means tangent is negative. So this doesn't make this negative. This is just a direction. You can spin around in this direction and still land in any quadrant. So make sure you see what quadrant you're landing in. That determines your sign. Number 6. All right, to find cosecant of 300, first I'm going to find sine of 300 and then flip it over. So I do everything like it says sine until the very end. Okay, so let's get me some room to work. All right, so let's go to 300. And you'll get where you don't have to draw these. You'll do them over and over again. But I usually write something down for the reciprocal ones because I have to think about it. All right, so this is 270, 300. All right, so if this is 300 and this is 360, your reference angle is always to the closest x-axis. Okay, so it's a 60-degree reference angle. So I'm going to just be careful. I'm going to look up the sine of 60. You'll get faster at this. Just trust me. I'm going to look up the sine of 60. So the sine of 60 is right in here, square root of 3 over 2. Let's go in and check the sign before we flip it over. That's not our answer. All students take calculus. Cosine is the only one that's positive in this quadrant right here. So that means I'm looking for sine, and it's negative. So this was just like notes to myself, okay? So my answer to this, cosecant is a reciprocal of sine. So it's negative 2 over square root of 3 would be my final answer for number 6. All right, number 7, I've got another reciprocal. The reciprocal of cotangent is tangent. Okay, so let's change colors so you can see where I am. All right, so negative 60 is just a direction. All right, obviously a 60-degree reference angle. And I'm just going to look up the tangent of negative 60 first. Negative just means I'm going down, okay, first. All right, the tangent of 60 is right here, square root of 3. And all students take calculus. Cosine's positive, that means tangent is negative. So this tells you where things are positive. All right, tangent is negative, and now I've got to flip it over for cotangent. So take the reciprocal, negative 1 over square root of 3. You can leave it like that, or you can rationalize it. Negative square root of 3 over 3. I would take either answer. Those are the exact same number. And so you get to choose. All right, now I think when I pull this up, oh good, all the words went with it. I was afraid I was going to say. All right, so I'll scroll up and down to get my numbers. Secant of 270. So I'm 570. So I'll find the cosine of 570. And you won't always have to do all this work. You'll get faster at it. But just let it happen. I'll look up cosine of 570, and then I'm going to flip it over. So reciprocal. All right, so 570. So let's think. This is 360. And this is, let's see, 360 and 90, I think is 450. This one's 540. And so I'm coming around here is 570. Just a minute, sorry. Okay, sorry, I'm back. All right, cosine of 570. So this one's 180, like 360 and 180 is 540 degrees. So once again, this is one time around, and that's 360. This one's 540, and then 30 degrees more is 570. All right, secant the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to look up the cosine of 30 degrees, which you'll be memorizing. The cosine of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. Got a lot to think about. So this is square root of 3 over 2. Don't ever pull a number out of that chart again without stopping at all students take calculus. So we are in the third quadrant. All students take, that's tangent is positive. So that means by default, cosine would be negative. And don't forget to answer your final, give your final answer. I just did all of that with cosine. Now I need to flip it over and get negative 2 over square root of 3. You can leave it like that, or if it makes you feel better, you can rationalize it. We take either one. Right, sine of 480. This is and by the way, this is another reason I don't like the unit circle, because the unit circle only takes you through, like the people that use it are only looking at one time around up to 360, whereas you don't care. Everything's based on all of your ratios from the first quadrant, and then you can go from there using this. All right, so 480 is not on their unit circle. We just got to find our reference angle and use our numbers from the chart. All right, so this is 360, this is 450, this is 480, but you need to see how far you are from 540. Okay. Always go to the closest x-axis. Always drop down like this for your reference angle. And so that's a 60-degree reference angle. And I'm looking at the sine of 60, which you may find already. You're not having to look up. The sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. Sine of 60, square root of 3 over 2 in my chart right here. And I'm going to check my sine. All students take. All right, so sine is positive. There's my answer. Cosine of 315 is going to be a 45-degree reference angle. So this is 315, this is 360. This is a 45-degree reference angle right here. The cosine of a 45-degree reference angle is square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45 degrees. And all students take calculus. Cosine's positive in the fourth quadrant. Secant of 135. I'm going to think to myself, what's the cosine of 135? And then flip it over. So that's a notation to self to remember to take the reciprocal. All right, it's a 45-degree reference angle. We'll get used to these. You'll see the same angles over and over again. 135 to 180 is a 45-degree reference angle. The cosine of a 45-degree reference angle is square root of 2 over 2. All students take. All right, in the second quadrant, this is trying to tell me sine is positive, therefore cosine is negative. So I'm going to flip it over. Let's write our answer out here. Negative 2 over square root of 2. And this is when I rationalize. I'll show you why. If I have a number over itself, it just looks better. It gives me negative 2 square root of 2 over 2. This cancels, and I get negative root 2. So this answer and this answer are exactly the same, but this one looks cleaner. I'll accept either one, but just know when I have a number over itself like this, I'll usually flip it over, and it rationalizes to just this little square root of 2. It's really ugly. There. All right, so double check on secant, you flipped it over. All right, cotangent of negative 225. I know the 45-degree reference angle, we're going this way. This is negative 180, negative 225. So I have a 45-degree reference angle in the second quadrant. The tangent of 45 degrees is 1. We got to, let's go and decide on our sine. The tangent of a 45-degree reference angle to the tangent of negative 225 is what I'm finding right now. So, sorry, the tangent of a 45-degree angle is 1. I flip it over, I still get 1. And all students, sine is positive in this quadrant. And so that means my tangent would be negative. And when you take the reciprocal of negative 1, you also get negative 1. Remember, this negative does not make that negative. This is a direction. All right, tan of 210. These really should be in parentheses. Tan of 210. 210 is a 30-degree reference angle. And the tangent of 30 degrees is right here, square root of 3 over 3. In the third quadrant, all students take, tangent is positive. So the answer is square root of 3 over 3. Secant of negative 270. I'm going to find the cosine of negative 270 and flip it over. So I'm going to go negative 270, which is coterminal with 90. I'm going to look up the cosine of 90. All right, cosine of 90, unless you, I actually don't use the IOU chart. I totally understand what's happening up here at 90. And in class today, some of you showed the same thing. You don't have an x coordinate by the time you get to 90. So of course the cosine of 90 is 0. Don't forget though, you're looking for secant. So we're at negative 270, which is coterminal with 90. The cosine of 90 is 0. But we've got to flip it over. And when you flip over 0, you get undefined. Don't write u, just write undefined. All right, so let's go over something. In your chart up here, if something is undefined, right now in my chart, if something ended up being undefined, that was because you would have ended up with something like 4 over 0. And so the reciprocal of undefined would be 0 over a number. So if you have 0, its reciprocal is undefined. If you have undefined, its reciprocal is 0. There's a big point behind that I'll make when we're together. Cosine of 315. 45-degree reference angle. Look up cosine of 45. You get square root of 2 over 2. All students take calculus. It's positive.